This video will guide you through the categorization procedure for the SRAM DH Access Transmission System. Categorization will determine chain length and setup cog position on bicycle frames not listed in the SRAM Full Mount Chain Length Guide or Access app, or frames with an adjustable idler pulley not in the default position. Before proceeding, complete the steps in the Prepare section from the DH transmission installation video until directed to this procedure. For frames with an adjustable idler pulley, you must position the idler pulley in the desired position before beginning the categorization procedure. Consult your idler pulley or frame manufacturer's instructions for installation. The Universal Derailleur Hanger, or UDH, must be removed from the frame before derailleur installation. Turn the UDH bolt clockwise to remove it from the hanger threads. Remove the frame-specific UDH washer along with the UDH bolt. Rotate the UDH hanger backward to unseat the hanger from the pocket. Remove the UDH from the frame. Remove the mount bolt and bushing frame insert from the derailleur. Clean the frame to remove any grease or debris. Install the bushing frame insert from the outside with the black side facing outwards into the hangerless interface. Before proceeding, make sure the cage assembly is fully tightened onto the derailleur body. Rotate the knurled ring so that it is touching the knurled ring stop. Apply grease to the mount bolt threads and shaft. Hang the transmission derailleur with the full mount sliding over the hangerless interface and bushing frame insert. Install and tighten the mount bolt clockwise to snug. Loosen the mount bolt counterclockwise 1 full turn. Rotate the derailleur cage forward until the lock icon on the cage clears the setup key. Press the cage mode button to set the derailleur cage to open mode. The derailleur is spring-loaded and will return from the open mode position rapidly. Keep fingers clear of pinch points. Apply grease to the through axle threads before axle installation. Install the through axle and wheel according to the manufacturer's instructions, and tighten to snug. Loosen the through axle bolt counterclockwise 1 full turn. Press and release the top button on the controller to shift the derailleur outboard 1 position at a time until it is fully outboard in gear 7, 10-tooth cog. Alternatively, press and release the access button on the derailleur to move the derailleur outboard 1 position at a time until it is fully outboard. Place the unsized Eagle T-type chain on gear 7, 10-tooth cog and route through the derailleur pulleys with the flat edge of the chain facing away from the cassette. Make sure to route the chain between the pulley and the tab in the cage. Route through the idler pulley or pulleys if applicable. The chain must be seated and engaged on the cassette cog teeth for proper setup. Rotate the derailleur cage forward and release the derailleur cage into the unlocked ride mode position. The derailleur is spring-loaded and will return from the open mode position rapidly. Keep fingers clear of pinch points. Install an 8mm hex wrench into the mount bolt. Install an 8mm hex wrench into the crank bolt. Stretch a long rubber band around the hex wrenches. Alternatively, place a long ruler so that it rests on both of the hex wrenches. Clip the gauge to an inner link at the end of the chain nearest the derailleur. Join the 2 sections of the chain at the gauge. Locate an inner link on the chain closest to the crank that results in the shortest possible chain length without causing the derailleur cage to rotate forward. Clip the inner link onto the gauge. Pull back on the lower cage of the derailleur to remove slack from the chain. Tighten the bolt to hold the derailleur in place. Visually inspect the white indicators on the B-knuckle of the derailleur when viewed from the side. The ruler or top of the band should line up within the white indicator lines, as close to the thickest line as possible. If the ruler or band does not line up within the white indicator lines, then the chain length is not optimal, and you must test another chain length. Loosen the mount bolt and unclip the gauge. Clip the gauge into a different section of chain and test again. If the ruler or top of band does line up within the thickest line of the indicators, the chain length is correct. Use an approved chain breaker tool to break the chain at the inner link. Remove the gauge, hex wrenches, and rubber band or ruler. Rotate the derailleur cage forward until the lock icon on the cage clears the cage mode button. Press the cage mode button to position the derailleur cage in open mode. The derailleur is spring-loaded and will return from the open mode position rapidly. Keep fingers clear of pinch points. Pull each end of the chain together and install the power lock. Press the power lock connector links together. The arrow on the outer plate must point in the direction of chain travel before locking the power lock into place. Once locked, the power lock must not be used a second time. Rotate the derailleur cage forward and release the cage from the open position. Lock the cage mode button at the derailleur cage, where the key line aligns with the cage mode button. The derailleur is spring-loaded and will return from the open mode position rapidly. Keep fingers clear of pinch points. Check that the two halves of the power lock are aligned and engaged. Use chain link pliers to lock the power lock. Alternatively, rotate the crank until the power lock is above the chainstay and apply the rear brake. Firmly push the crank arm down to lock the power lock. You should hear and feel the power lock click into place. Check the power lock by hand to make sure it moves freely. The power lock is designed for one-time use only. The power lock can only be removed with chain link pliers and must not be reused. Install a new power lock each time a new chain is installed. Reusing a power lock may result in a broken chain that could result in a crash. With the cage in setup mode, shift the derailleur inboard to Gear 2, 21-tooth cog. If not done already, loosen the mount bolt counterclockwise 1 full turn. Pull back on the lower cage of the derailleur to remove slack from the chain. Tighten the bolt to hold the derailleur in place. Remove the bicycle from the bicycle repair stand. Hook the gauge around the setup key and pull forward around the P-knuckle. Move the slider on the gauge to the back until the slider touches the cage with a hard stop. This will activate the gauge to identify the setup cog. Compress or sit on the bike until it is in sag position. Suspension sag is the percentage of full travel that the suspension compresses when the rider, including gear, is on the bicycle and in a normal riding position. Consult your frame manufacturer's recommendations for appropriate sag percentage, typically 20 to 35%, and your suspension manufacturer's user manual for instructions on setting proper sag. Dismount or uncompress the bike. Visually inspect the gauge to determine where the indicator slider moved to. This is your setup cog position. Gear 1, 24-tooth cog. Gear 2, 21-tooth cog. Or Gear 3, 18-tooth cog. If the gauge slider is between two cogs, use the outboard smaller cog. Record your setup cog position as Gear 1, 24-tooth cog, Gear 2, 21-tooth cog, or Gear 3, 18-tooth cog. Remove the gauge from the derailleur. If necessary, shift the chain into the setup cog. Loosen the mount bolt counterclockwise 1 full turn. Follow the link in the upper right-hand corner or in the video description below to complete the DH Access transmission system installation.